Hello and welcome to Full Time from the Fulhamish podcast. Sorry, the award-winning Fulhamish podcast, ladies and gentlemen. FSA Club Podcast of the Year. And not only a win for Fulham over the square ball of Leeds United on Monday night, but a win for Fulham at the Cottage against Leeds United today. 2-1, double over Leeds this week, which is very, very sweet. Sorry, the square ball, you're also class. My name is Jack Collins and I'm joined by George Cooper and Farrell Monk to discuss a very, very, very welcome win at the Cottage. George, I'll start with you. Overall feelings kind of about that game. It was not easy, shall we say?
No, but overall I'm absolutely buzzing. I think that it was a drastic improvement from the performances that we've seen over the last three games. That Harrison Reed back in the middle I thought was a very, very welcome addition. He shored us up in the midfield and we just saw a bit more grit, a bit more bottle I think that we've seen. I was not confident going into this game at all. And to win in the manner that we did, we had to stick it out, grind out the result. There was a lot of pressure late on from Leeds. And I thought Leeds, they were nowhere near above the levels that I thought they were going to be at. They didn't quite hit those heights. I thought they were a little bit toothless. But fantastic victory. Let's not take anything away from the performance today. And you just can't predict this Fulham side anymore. We were ready to sort of, I was thinking, Parker really had a lot of questions to be answered for, assuming that we were going to lose this game, and then we just pull out a fantastic 2-1 victory. You just don't know where you stand, thoroughly unpredictable. No matter what you say, it's entertaining. Fulham have been entertaining this year. Lots of talking points, but I am absolutely over the moon with that victory. Absolutely over the moon.
First time, Farrell, we came out of the traps. First time in ages that Fulham have bolted out of the traps, and within the first 10 minutes we were on the board due to a penalty that was contentious, shall we say. A couple of Leeds United fans at the bar were arguing that it potentially wasn't a penalty, but his hands are quite far away from his body, and sometimes you just got to be a bit more sensible than the Leeds centre-back was.
Yeah, all two of those fans that Leeds have. They've only got two fans in the world. He's definitely got to be a bit more sensible. I think it was Luke Ayling that with there, and he's got a definite height advantage over Bobby Deckard over Reed. When the ball comes across, you've got to be just so much more smarter. You don't need to do that, especially so close to the box. But Bobby Reed does go down probably a little bit easily, but. Why won't you? Exactly. I was speaking to a Leeds fan straight after the game, and he complained that Fulham players did go down a bit easily. I've got to disagree though. To be honest, it was a very fiery game. I did think, as the last home game, the referee Jeremy Simpson did lose a bit of control over it, and there was a lot of challenges. We saw Tom Kearney getting pushed into the dugout. We saw towards the end of the game Joe Bryan and I think it was Alioski maybe. They had a bit of afters towards the end of the game, and it was brewing for a long time. We kept, me and my family were talking quite a lot about how this game could end up 11v10 or 10v10 even.
It always makes me laugh when Leeds fans complain about Fulham players going down easily. But may I remind you, this is a team that contains Patrick Bamford, who is the biggest houser in the league. And for them to be complaining, they love it when he does it. It just always makes me laugh.
But it was a very good game overall, with very few chances. It was a good game. It was played with a high tempo. It was an enjoyable watch, obviously with the result in mind. But with very few chances, actually.
Yeah, there was nothing clear cut. There was a couple in the first half. Mateus Click tested Rodak on two occasions, I think. Kiko Casilla made a brilliant save from Cavallero. But apart from that, I can't recall there being much for either keeper to really do, apart from the kind of basics.
I think that's the point to actually bring up the fact that Marat Rodak should get a lot of credit for today's performance, because every time that ball was fired into the box, he was confident. He claimed quite a lot. He gave assurances to our back line, which maybe under Bettinelli we wouldn't necessarily have. There was one towards maybe about 20 minutes before the end where an excellent ball in from the left-hand side, and Rodak came out straight away and literally, the amount of times pundits and people say to goalkeepers, come and clear them out, and he did, and he got a thwack for it, but it relieved that pressure. We got the foul, we got that free kick and just calmed things down. But if it wasn't for that ball might have come back in, or it might have fallen to a Leeds player. Thankfully, I thought that Rodak is really cementing his place in the number one spot.
He's a very brave goalkeeper, Rodak, and the way he comes out and claims it, he puts his body on the line. And even just the shots and the crosses that are directly at him, he never flaps. There's never any doubt, and you just having that keeper that you know if there's anything within the dustbin lids of his area, he's just going to come and pluck it out of the sky. It does wonders for the defence. I thought he had a very, very good game, apart from the parry that went up. I mean, you could argue there's not an awful lot he could have done.
Yeah, no, I don't know what more he could have really done. Talking of goalkeepers and maybe goalkeeping mistakes, should Kiko Casilla save that penalty, because he gets a hand to it, and you know, it's not the best penalty in Mitchell's career. It goes in the back of the net, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Yeah. But Casilla very close to keeping that out.
Yeah, I waited a long time to celebrate whether that went in or not. I was a bit confused as to whether it hit the post and was going to come back out again. I haven't watched it back yet, really, to see what happens or anything.
Comes on the inside of the post and then nestles in the other corner.
Yeah, classic. But we'd say Fulham tend to be a team that a scorer of bad penalties. You know, we've not since sort of like Danny Murphy days or Berbatov, where it was really, really confidently stroked home with the keeper no chance. You know, we obviously was it 3 seasons ago when we had those 9 missed penalties out of 11.
We don't want to talk about that.
What a year that was.
Not on a day like today. Not on a day like today. It was, you know, a scrappy first half, and it became scrappy quite quickly. I think, you know, Mateus Klick was then booked for a challenge on Harrison Reed, where he cleaned him out, refused to shake Joe Bryan's hand after a weird altercation at a corner. Then there was the whole bit at the end of the first half where Bryan was booked for seemingly being pushed over, although, again, went down very easily. It just, tempers flared, and you haven't seen this Fulham side get like feisty like that for a while. I think was something interesting to note, and I don't know how much of that is based on the fact that Tom Kearney hates Leeds. Like, you saw it today, Tom Kearney throwing himself into challenges, obviously dropped from their academy as a kid. Has always tried to, you know, bite back against Leeds, and again today in challenges, you know, winning fouls. I didn't think he had the best game by his own, you know, lofty standards. Passing was a bit out again, the second week in a row, but he really put himself about today, and it's not something we always say about the skipper.
No, exactly. I think that vendetta goes back a long way, and it's great to see.
Deep set.
And like, it's one criticism. I mean, Kearney's obviously fantastic, and the things that he does for the club cannot be understated. However, the one thing that sometimes he can be questioned for would maybe be his kind of commitment and really getting stuck in and putting in those, you know, grafts. He can be a bit of a soft touch at times, but today, amazing to see. And I think it's mainly this Leeds team are experts at riling people up, and you know the way they play, they're tough, they're niggly, little digs, and like one-on-one kind of. It's just what Leeds are like, and to see Fulham really like rise up and respond to that, and then ultimately get the better of this side. It's just fantastic to see, and a real test of character, I think.
Absolutely, we were a bit nasty in terms of not just the tackles or whatever, but we were time wasting in the first half. All the things that used to wind us up as Fulham fans, that teams used to come and do to us, we did today, and you know, credit must be given to Parker. I'll be the first to, you know, criticise and the first to credit. Not necessarily because I didn't think our tactical thing was much apart from get the ball to Mitrovic and get him to hold it up and bring everyone into play, but you know, he actually came out with some ideas in terms of being like, okay, this might wind them up, this might rile them up a little bit, and it did, and it got to Leeds as well as it got to us.
Yeah, and that has come from Parker. It's a notable shift, especially with the addition of Harry Arter at the start of the year, and then Harrison Reed coming back in. They sort of like drive the team forward. They drive themselves in tackle. They kind of set an example of what should be expected from this Scott Parker team, and you can see, you know, it mirrors his kind of Scott Parker's playing style when he was a player, and yeah, I think it does work. And like for a number of years, especially under Slav, we were talking about how, you know, this attractive style of play that we do is can be successful, but there have been the amount of times that we haven't been able to grind out results because the other team. And I remember me and Ben having quite a lot of vocal arguments on previous podcasts about whether we should be a bit more pragmatic and be a bit more bite. And you know, I think it's kind of shown that this year we do have to have that little bit more bite, because it's a harder league this year.
We're also not going to pass teams to death anymore. We don't have the quality. The balance of that midfield three of, you know, Johansson, Kearney and McDonald, I don't think we'll see again. No. You know, the balance they had and the ability to sort of shift into each other's positions and mould games to their tempo, we don't have that this year. And we don't have flying fullbacks. We don't have the elements in play to pass teams to death anymore. So we have to play differently.
Yeah, and I think that's what Bielsa was trying to do in his tactics today. he was in my line of sight all game from where I can sit, and he was absolutely imploring his players to play wide, to try and bypass our midfield three today, mainly Reed and Onamar and Kearney, who I did think did do a very good job in that midfield three. Yeah. And Bielsa, every time they got the ball, he was like, get it wide, get it into the channels, play it over the fullback, get at them. There was quite a few times where literally they tried to, you could see Bielsa going, get it wide, and they would try and play through the midfield, and they were being stopped. They were being, ousted by Onamar or Reed, and you could see Bielsa like getting absolutely annoyed and sitting back down again. It was lovely to see from my point of view, but it shows that they were really, really struggling to do that, probably because of the injury to Pablo Hernandez, which was, unfortunately, as a player injured, but I was delighted to see him go up because he is the one that can really unlock any door. Yeah.
He's the key man. He's the 10. He makes things happen, and one of those players that you're always scared of coming up against. But I want to talk about someone you just mentioned there, and that's Josh Onamah. Josh Onomah's been getting pelters for weeks, and I thought he was good against Brentford. I thought he was one of our better players. And in a team that didn't have many good players, and in getting again today, much improved. First half a little bit quiet. Didn't do much wrong, but the second half, and especially post-goal, a different player, and suddenly you start to see maybe there is a player in there that, Parker is trying to get out, and that confidence growing, maybe we will continue to see, him getting better and better.
No, exactly, and it's just, as a supporter, it's fantastic to see, and we've been guilty in the past of on this podcast of criticising him, and I feel like it's
criticism when you deserve to be criticised, but today was excellent.
Yeah, absolutely, and just the little touches as well. So right at the death when he shielded out that Leeds corner, and they had about 3 corners on the bounce, and then he just used his strength and shielded this ball out, and then went to ground because the Leeds player sort of like shoved him down, and then all of the Leeds supporters were just giving him so much stick, and he did this cheeky little glance back and just let it linger for a couple of seconds and then jogged off. I was like, yes, Josh. It was fantastic. He had a great performance.
Yeah, you could tell how popular he is in the squad, because as soon as I put something on Twitter, the most popular thing I put on Twitter this week, definitely.
What was that? What was that, Farrell?
But as soon as the final whistle went, Josh Onamah, all the players went over to Josh Onamah and were lauding him, jumping all over him. They were absolutely delighted.
What a goal as well. Yeah. He lashed it home, never any doubt.
Really strong from Mitrovic as well. Everyone else was shouting for handball. Everyone else is up in arms. Onamah didn't take his eyes off it for a minute. He just lumped it home. Deal with the handball later. Put this in the back of the net first. And you know what? I'm delighted for him. I really am. And
hopefully we'll see his confidence grow and see many more performances such as this to moving forward.
Check like Onamah, sick like cholera. I think that is all that we can say about Josh Onamah's performance today. Look, a huge win. Final thoughts, Farrell, on the Christmas period. It's been a tough couple of weeks, I think, for everyone involved. But Scott did well today. It wasn't a tactical masterclass by any stretch of imagination. He brought back in Reed and Reed, Reed and Reed were our 2 best players, I think. And it's important, obviously, to recognise how much we've missed them. But equally, it's such a morale-boosting win, reeling back in the top 2. Brentford went and got a point at West Brom, so both the top 2 dropping points today. West London reeling them in, and it's positive going into Christmas now.
Yeah. It was definitely a make or break game today for Fulham and in particular Scott Parker, and thankfully he was able to call upon 2 very important players, as you quite rightly say, in Harrison Reed and Bobby Reed. He would never say stop the Reed, that's for sure, and it showed today how much there's so many influential in our squad. Bobby Reed today was absolutely fantastic.
Ballon d'Or winning performance.
Absolutely fantastic. He brings so much to this team. Playing off that left-hand side, it was amazing to see. What kind of frustrates me a little bit is that how we just don't punish teams when the openings happen. And I don't think it's anything to do with Scott Parker. I think that he just needs to if anything, just instill confidence in Cavallera and more importantly Mitrovic, just to, when he's attacking a fullback or a centre back, just shift it a couple of yards and have a go and hit it. I know it sounds very old school, but the amount of times both those players just literally dribbled straight into them and gave them an opportunity.
It's what Cavano's really good at.
Yeah,
shifting the ball out of his feet and just
exactly.
Explosive
but it also
pace off the standstill after,
But we basically have gone toe to toe with what could be the runaway league leaders at some point of this season.
It's not to be understated, that's all.
And we've ground out a result. We didn't play amazingly, but we made sure that they didn't play amazingly.
Yeah, no, that's important. We didn't let them breathe, and our first win really against the top 6 side, and for that to happen at this point in the season, at this crux, it is a big moment. Final thoughts, George?
I still stand by what I said earlier, that I feel like this Fulham side is impossible to predict. I mean, how many times have we seen it this season? We have a fantastic victory followed by an absolutely diabolical performance. So I feel like it's still too early days to see whether this result is going to have any sort of significant effect on the trajectory of our season. I still feel we need to, get a few more wins under our belt under top opposition such as this to give us a realistic overview of where we're going to end up this season. That gap, although we've cut it down a little bit today, is still gaping. It's still gaping. So, fantastic result today, but still a lot of work to be done, I would say. That's my overall synopsis.
Well, we've got to put a run of results together ourselves if we're going to gain any ground. But that is all from us at the Old Suffolk Punch. Thank you so much, Farrell Monk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George Cooper. I've been Jack Collins. This is the award-winning Fulhamish podcast. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. See you later.